Some things that are important is call tracking. So dynamic number swapping when somebody clicks on an ad or clicks on your organic result in Google, or they even look at your Google business profile. Having different phone numbers on those different platforms that all just forward to your regular line can be a great way for you to make sure that you're tracking source for each lead individually. And then for forms on your site, make sure that you don't just have one form for everything, that you have separate forms on your website for scheduling an appointment. All of the landing pages for your paid ads have separate forms so that if somebody comes to the Roman Shades page from a Roman Shades ad, they fill out that form, you know which form they filled out so that you can track that backwards again, so you know what source is providing the best quality leads. And then when you have the conversion tracking in place, you can start to look at things like cost per conversion, or what did it cost us ultimately to get that lead to say, to get all the way through our sales funnel and say yes. And it could be that one campaign or one ad group is doing better than the other, even though the number of clicks is higher, the number of clicks is lower. So it's not always just about the amount of eyeballs, but really about cost per conversion at the end of the day. A little bit nerdy here, but some things called UTM parameters can really help you start to drive down in different platforms that you're using to get reporting from. So it can tell you on these platforms, these leads came from this particular ad, this particular campaign, they typed in this particular term. So you can start to really drill down into this by using some of these, what they call UTM parameters. And I would highly recommend that every link that you put in an ad actually has these added on. Pretty easy to do nowadays to get that all set into place. And then make sure you're auditing all this. You want to make sure, obviously, your tracking is working, but then you want to audit it every once in a while just to make sure that things are still working as you would expect them to work. Things do break, or you miss something when you set something up. So always going back from time to time and making sure that those things are working as you expect them to. So when it comes to the most important KPI, my most important metric on this page is average cost per lead, or CPL. For window treatments, most leads are going to cost you between $85 and $210. There are some factors in there, how long you've been running ads, how optimized they are, how much competition you have in your area, what is the physical population or the amount of potential leads that are out there in the first place. These are all things that give that range. It's hard to dial down in a specific area to a specific number, but you should understand that this is probably the average for that. Awning, $60 to $150 per lead. And then comes down to how good are you at closing those leads, right? If you're really good at sales, then you might close 7, 8 out of 10. If you're maybe not that great, maybe 3 or 4 out of 10, but whatever that number comes down to, you can then extract how much is it going to ultimately cost me to get to a yes. There are some other KPIs here. Obviously, total spend is important, and cost per click. So what was the average that it cost somebody to just click on my ad? That doesn't mean they turned into a lead. They just got exposed to my brand. And then obviously ROI at the end of the day, that's a huge one as well. So a couple things that we see working now, Google Maps ads. They're a little bit hard to get into. There's no direct way you can just say, always show my ad in the Google Maps, what we call the 3-pack or the snack pack, but you can set your campaign up to potentially show up in that 3-pack as a fourth ad. So I've started seeing these at the bottom of the 3 now, which is interesting, but in the past, it's always been at the top. And that makes the most sense. It looks the most natural. It just looks like another recommendation for a company that can't get into the 3-pack because their site isn't optimized. They haven't built citations, some of those other things related to Google Business Profile, which I have a separate workshop on our website already. But this particular method is getting into that 3-pack as a fourth listing, which can be huge for potential leads for your business. For the Google 3-pack or Google Business Profile in general, 60 to 70% of our client leads come from this. So getting that fourth listing in there can drive a lot of traffic to your business. So it's definitely not something to overlook. When it comes down to the different ways to do this, structuring from the campaign standpoint, I mentioned this earlier. You want to have basically maybe a brand campaign that is just for people typing in your brand. You should show up naturally in the organic results for your brand, but doesn't hurt to also run an ad in there about your business. You'll see a lot of the bigger players do that. Something that is around general window treatments. So somebody that just types in window treatments near me or window treatments in your city, those kinds of people probably have something more specific in mind, but starting to get those generic searches into your world can really help out. And then something that's more specific, like awnings, patio covers, shutters, shades, that kind of stuff. Obviously important as well. This is a screenshot of Google ad platform and how you would set up those different ad groups in there, pretty much as I mentioned. And then at the keyword level, you can start to say, okay, show my ads for these specific keywords inside of this particular ad campaign. It also shows you all the different ads in here so that you can see which ones are getting the most clicks, conversions, which ones are getting the best conversion rates, and which ones are getting the most eyeballs. So you can start to get into the weeds a little bit with some of this. At the end of the day, we're really after conversion rate and cost per lead, right? If those two things are in line, you're probably in a good spot. Thanks for tuning in with us here at Window Treatment Marketing Pros. This was just one piece of the conversation, so let's keep it going. Click right here for the next part, and we'll see you there. Subscribe for more marketing tips for window treatment and awning companies.